Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for our second vlog. On this one we will be covering questions that I've been asked. So to get started with that, a question that I've been asked at our last screening party was, were there things that turned out differently than I expected on our trip to view the Salt River wild horses? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. I think any good adventure turns out differently than you plan and than you expect. The first one that comes to mind is the difference in the reaction between what I expected from Calypso and the wild horses and what actually happened. Originally, that was probably one of my biggest concerns going out there. So here I was taking a 4-year-old mare out with me, and we were going to be looking for wild horses. So one of my biggest concerns was how the first interaction would go and subsequent interactions after that. And obviously I was hoping that there would not be much of an interaction because I didn't want to have to worry about stallions who were interested in her, or them being territorial, or any of those types of things. So I really had no idea what to expect. I expected something, but I didn't know what to expect out of the first interaction. So we definitely wanted to avoid actually interacting with them and be able to observe. But as I know from my past, animals don't always behave how you'd like them to. But surprisingly this time they did. And our first sighting of the wild horses, there was no reaction from either one of them. They both clearly saw each other. You know, they picked up their heads, pricked their ears at each other. They definitely saw each other, but after that there was no interest. Which, looking back, doesn't surprise me as much. The Salt River wild horses are in a fairly popular tourist area and hiking area, so it probably didn't surprise them to see another horse and people. That was part of their everyday existence. I don't know what exactly was communicated between them, but they had no interest in each other. And that was true for almost the entire trip. So that was a huge relief when I realized I was going to be able to actually just sit there and peacefully observe the horses from a good distance and not have to worry about the horses wanting to be with each other. And the only time there was that Calypso responded to them at all was the day that the Bachelor Band of Stallions actually came through our camp first thing in the morning, which was just an incredible experience. And I hope you guys have taken the time and have seen all of my extra video that I have of that event. Really get to appreciate just these amazing horses in the morning light. And they just came and had breakfast with us. And she did whinny at them at that point. And I don't know if that's because she viewed our trailer and her little corral as her area. I'm not quite sure what she was communicating to them, or maybe she thought they were really cute and we're just trying to call them over. But regardless, the stallions didn't respond to her at all. They didn't care. Which brings me to the second thing that was different than what I expected, and that was how the stallions acted in the wild. So most of what I expected from the wild stallions was based off of what I'd seen from domesticated stallions. You know, most stallions that I've been around are excited to be around other horses and definitely curious about them and want to check them out. And when they're confronted with another stallion, can be very territorial. So this was kind of my basis for what I expected to see from the behavior of the wild stallions. And that really couldn't be further from what I saw. They didn't want to check out a new horse. They weren't curious about her. And all these bands were able to come together at one point in the river, and there was very little conflict between them. We'd make it clear that someone was in an area they didn't want them to be, and for the most part there was just shuffling of horses, and then it was over. There was very few times when they really showed the behavior you would expect to see a defending stallion do. Only one conflict that I saw the whole time I was there, and it wasn't instigated by the stallions. It was actually that piece of the video that you saw when the filly was going over and sang hi to the neighboring stallion. And then first the mares went and tried to bring her back, and then she went over again, and went back and forth until finally at the end the stallion from her band went over and had a fight. It wasn't a long fight. It was all of, 10 seconds. But that was the only real confrontation that I saw where they were actually kicking and biting, and it was settled very quickly, and the other stallion went back and just went back to the usual peaceful river scene that we were used to. So it was really cool to get to see how stallions were able just to be part of the group, weren't too concerned about anything. Definitely different than I had expected in the beginning. Another thing that really surprised me was their role within the band. I liked their role to be guarding the herd and keeping unwanted horses away from them, but it really wasn't defined like that. They seemed to bring up the back and they were protecting those horses in their band, but they weren't overly concerned with their neighbor horses, and it was more being on the lookout and being a protector, but not a strong offensive stance, which is really what I thought they would be much more proactive with guarding and keeping the other horses away from the band. But the bands all intermingled together and seemed to get along quite well. The last thing I have on our list that really surprised me was not relating to the wild horses at all, but relating to the relationship between Calypso, Zala, and I. Spending that much time together, I assumed that we would bond further and definitely strengthen our relationship, but the extent that Calypso and Zala altered their behavior was beyond anything I'd ever expected, particularly when it came to Calypso and changing her sleeping routine. I thought it was really cool to see how, from the beginning of the 2 weeks to the end, she had shifted from laying down at night to laying down while I was making breakfast and while I was making dinner. And I guess that was kind of her cue. She knew I was going to be in the same area, not going anywhere for a while. So over the course of the 2 weeks, it started where I would be able to visibly see in the dirt, and from Calypso I could see she was laying down every night and kind of using her hay as some bedding, and she would organize it, lay down in it, and get settled in for the night. So I could see that she was laying down quite frequently during the night when we first arrived. And then somewhere, I think it was around day 5, that I noticed that she hadn't laid down that night. And when I got up and I gave her hay, she ate for a little bit. And then when I started making breakfast, she lay down, and Zala went over and hung out with her, and that became their routine pretty quickly after day 5. Once she figured out that that was her routine and she was going to look after us at night and I was going to look after her when she was laying down, there's no way to really know what she was thinking and why she decided to lay down. I don't know if she felt that was her role within our little band that we had, that it was her time to be on the lookout, or I don't know, perhaps if she didn't feel safe at night without someone else being around, so that's why she was on the lookout. Either way, it was pretty cool to see her kind of take on that role and see Zala join in with her too. We're looking now a little under a year later, and Calypso and Zala still have a really unique relationship with each other. Zala loves riding in the saddle. They greet each other when I have them out in the pasture together. When we're out in the pasture and the other horses start crowding, Zala, if I tell Zala she can't jump up on me, she tries to jump up on Calypso to get out of the way. So she definitely views her as a protecting source and a friend, and so that was really cool to see it continue to this day, and makes me excited to see on our future travels how that progresses and changes. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about doing this documentary series, and why I want to do a series and not just a movie that covers a variety of different cultures, is I want to see how Calypso and how Zala grow up together, grow up with these different cultures, and really take away the value of what we learn by watching Calypso and seeing her growth and her development. So thanks again for joining us for our second vlog, and I'll get to see you guys next month and come up with some more material for you. Again, if you have any questions, any extra material you'd like to see, definitely let me know, and I would love to create it and share it all with you. We had such an incredible experience with the Salt River horses and some really cool adventures that are going to be coming up. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next month.